I mean, I'll bury my nose in it, as you know. I'm no stranger. I'm no stranger to getting in there.
That's what we advise. We want you to get right into it.
Get a nice deep voice into it. I'll plant my chin on it for the most part.
Get a little NPR talk going. Oh, so we're gonna do quotes. So
yes. So I told Mac this idea that I have.
Yes.
So you know how I start the episodes now with quotes from the movies.
Oh yeah.
So
like one of my favorite things too.
I'm glad to hear that because it's not stopping. In fact, it's only being amplified with this episode because my idea is I'm going to read a quote from the first movie, and then one of you can pick up a quote from the second movie, and then the other one grabs a quote from the third movie.
Well, no. So this is what I got. The second one. You get. The third.
I'll do the third. Thomas Hayden Church. My daughter is dying, and I need to save her with this. I'm gonna rob banks.
Dude,
thank you, Spider-Man. You brought me peace and love to my family. I can go now. Floats away in the wind. It's not
Great.
the quote. I don't. Yeah, I'm gonna be scrambling to get a quote in.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
I got too much to say on all of this. I'm so glad that we could do this. Like literally. Oh, I didn't even tell you guys this on the drive down here. Near Cedar Springs. A car was flipped on the highway on its side, and they were getting people out of there.
That's crazy.
As you're driving by,
I was driving by, like multiple vehicles collision. One of them on the side, like a movie. Like
oh shit!
And they were climbing out of the door, on top with the door.
Yeah.
And my first impulse was, oh my gosh, I should send this and film it. And I caught myself, and I was like, that's pretty disgusting behavior. And I know every car in front of me did it. And I'm like, I'm putting my foot down. Like, I'm not ever doing something like that. Like, somebody could have been injured. Thank God nobody looked like they were injured.
Are you asking for an alibi right now? Or
yeah, Sam Parker, I was on the highway. I saw this car on its side.
You just really want us to make sure that you're not Jake Gyllenhaal from Nightcrawler, right? Like
God.
That's what you're doing. You're making us
I would
confident.
be Bill Paxton, like recruiting him after,
Oh, I don't know if you want to be Bill Paxton in that movie.
That's
be Bill Paxton in any movie.
That's a conversation for another day.
Frailty.
All right.
Oh, that's going to be recommended.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
We can jump right into this.
Yes.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
Ooh. Uncle
One of the
Ben.
best comebacks ever.
Yeah. That was pretty cold when he said that.
Yeah. Like, I remember, like, that was like mic drop.
And it was, it was definitely, you felt good when he said it. Like, he finally got a backbone.
Yeah, you were like, yeah, one for the good guy.
Let's go, Peter.
And it's interesting, too, because of, like, Tobey Maguire's, the way he's acting as this character and his line delivery. It's been kind of memed. I say kind of, but it's been memed into obliteration. But that line has such a heavy implication for the rest of the plot of the movie as well.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Do you want me to say my name, or you just you didn't introduce yourself for what we're doing?
Well, I was thinking we do
Kyle.
like the quote for me, and then quote from you, and then quote from Sam.
Well, why don't we just do the quote before we read off the synopsis of the movie?
Oh,
yeah. So like you can do one, I'll do two, you do three.
I mean, that's fine. That is not at all what I had in mind, but sure, we can go for it.
Yeah,
that's okay.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, it's just read them off.
What Mackie, as they say, we're going back to formula.
Oh,
back to formula,
dude! I didn't even. Hold on one second, everyone. Yeah. Do you want to do the introductions? Because we're just gonna get rolling.
Yeah. No. I will.
We're literally rolling right
Different
now.
Different kind of energy for this.
Oh yeah.
Welcome to the 63rd episode of the Neon Crew podcast. My name is Kyle.
I'm Mac.
And today with us is a returning special guest, Sam Parker.
Woo!
Welcome back.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Hey, Mackie, please, you don't need to clap. Please, you're too kind. You're too kind. I know Mackie was telling me earlier that you guys were planning on having a Hall of Fame. Like to throw my name in the hat. I just feel like I'm a first ballot kind of guy.
Yeah. I figured episode 100 we're gonna have every single guest back on, and you're gonna.
I will not be on I will not be on with Gideon.
Oh really?
Gideon and I cannot be in the same room.
Is that because you're the same person?
No, because I feel like I will drop to my knees and start bowing down to him because I do listen to his music.
Oh, okay.
Nice. There we go.
You check out the Wake Rise Fall channel.
I do.
Okay.
And I want to reach out, or might reach out to him about an intro for my podcast, or not my podcast, my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
You absolutely should. He would love that 100%.
Yeah.
And like as Mackie can tell you,
Oh,
like,
dude,
I'm
it's-
all synth. I'm all
Very
into the
retro.
80s. Yeah,
Very
big
retro
time.
guy.
Dude,
Big
like
time.
when Gideon came out with the intro, I was like, man, this is like right up our alley. And I was thinking about you and I was like, I think I told you, I was like,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
going to love this.
Oh, yeah, and
Yeah.
I do. Yeah,
I helped him with that in as much as I sat next to him while he created it.
Did you nod a lot? Like,
I think I pressed the keys like 3 times.
Oh.
While he did 97% of the rest of
So
the composition.
he was the one nodding as you hit the keys.
I was the one. He was very proud of me.
He's like, Kyle, man, nice.
it was like a father-son moment, even though he's only like 2 weeks older than me.
I always think of musicians of the guys with the rolled up sleeves that are smoking the cigarettes and the black and white vignettes, so just you and him, like him just sitting there, even though he doesn't smoke, just that'd be a very cool thing
Yeah.
to.
If Gideon was born like 30 years earlier, he would definitely smoke cigarettes.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
100%.
Pall Malls.
Oh, yeah.
I say 30 years earlier, he's 29. So maybe 60 years earlier. And then, add
Well, I
the
guess
age or
30s
whatever.
is the 90s. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
60.
Yeah. Speaking of 90s, I guess, kind of, sort of,
Yeah.
early 2000s-ish, they blend together.
Yes.
We're here to talk about the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy,
Let's go.
which we've been wanting to talk about for a minute, and we're going to delve deep into each one of these movies, which I feel like we're going to have a meaty discussion on every single one of them.
Just warning people now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
be
I'm
ready.
glancing at your notes, and it's
Well,
like me for War of the Worlds.
they're not as in-depth as I'd like them to be. I'm mostly going to go off of memories that I have from as a kid going into rewatching these movies now, and I'm so familiar with them just based on like memes and like how many times I watched them as a kid. So a lot of it's just going to be me running on fumes, but hopefully those fumes will be enough to get us through this
Ignite a
conversation.
fire.
Can I ask you guys this before we even get into the trilogy?
Yes.
But where were you at with Spider-Man before the movies even came out? Like, did you watch? I watched the cartoon, and we had the Nintendo 64 game
I was
for a
going
little
to
bit.
ask a very
We had
similar
it
question.
was PC. We had it on the
No,
PC.
they had one for the 64 that we rented a couple of times from Blockbuster.
Yeah. So I remember when 2002 it came out. We had it for the PC and we didn't have enough RAM.
Oh, yeah.
It was RAM or the digital card. Like remember you had to have a certain digital card in
you
there
had to have
for
a special chip.
Yeah, for to upload the freaking the dimensions and the visual output. So it wasn't good enough. So the background, the skyscrapers, it would just go to like that gray. Like. I don't even know what to call it. It's just a gray, and then you'd swing, and then as you'd appear within like what it could load up, it would load up, and then it would freeze and drop. Yeah, that's $50 we never got back.
So my experience with Spider-Man is a little bit different because, I'm a bit younger than both of you guys. Not to brag about it, humble brag. But when this first movie came out, I was, I think, 7.
Oh,
So I really didn't have much in the way of knowledge of Spider-Man. I really didn't know too much about him as a hero. I probably didn't even know he existed until I learned about these movies coming out.
yeah.
But my relationship with the character is almost purely through film.
Probably, I think we're in the same boat. I mean, we had a video game and some of the cartoons, but not much in
Yeah.
the way of knowing who he was. Or
Like I never
Stan
read
Lee
any of
or
the comics
Yeah.
or anything like
I
that.
only I liked him. I liked the Spider-Man character as a superhero, and then his last name is Parker.
Yeah.
So I always
Instantly relatable.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he always seemed like the coolest to me.
The coolest.
Yeah,
He
like
was one cool cat.
Well, he's certainly one of the more
Swinging.
relatable superheroes because he's a young guy, starts off in high school, right?
Yeah.
So immediately you can latch onto him as being like, oh, he's the closest to me in age, so therefore he's the one that I like the most. And then also he's just written to be funny, quippy, has some cool, unique abilities, has some cool supervillains he can bounce off of, and a lot in the way of like good storytelling, I would
Yeah.
say.
Oh yeah. I mean, are we hopping into it? You want to do the synopsis?
Well,
or?
I think I do have like one question that I want to ask before we get into like the
Okay.
movies themselves. Along the similar line of Sam's question that he had, but mine is more specific to these movies individually. So like what was your guys' experience growing up with these films and like watching them as they came out and experiencing them like during your childhood?
So the way I think about it is we missed the boat with Batman. We got a little bit of the Schumacher one. Like, I kind of remember Batman Forever, the third one. And then so when you talk about, you're talking live action. Now, we don't need to get in the argument whether he's a superhero or not, but like live action, like maybe superpower guy or whatever. We missed Batman just a little bit. We got with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Batman and Robin. So like Spider-Man comes out, he's instantly relatable, right? It's a comic book guy that you're going to see swinging from skyscrapers, and he's going to be fighting bad guys. So like immediately drawn in, what's going on. And at that time with the stories, don't really give a shit, not like I do now. Well, I would have a lot of things to pick up on with these films. So like the first one comes out, I'm 12. Would have saw it.
That's like the prime age.
Dude, I'm telling, like, when you watch these films, you're like, I was really the demographic for it, and like, and I think Spider-Man 2, and we'll get to it, a little bit ahead, in terms of it's probably still relating to a younger audience, but some of the themes and storyline going on is for a much older audience. And then by the third one, it got to be a little cartoony. Like, I saw the second one in theaters with my buddy, a good friend of mine when we were in grade school, and old fan comment of the year. We were joking around about it, but Doc Ock was super cool. You didn't have any super villains like that. You didn't have anyone that was coming around doing like what Doc Ock was doing. And then by the third one, you had all these new characters being thrust in. But I think we had Fantastic Four coming up, and Superman got brought back by that time. So like some of the resurgence with the
and there was a lot of bad superhero movies.
Yeah,
like this was standalone outside of like X2, like the X-Men movie.
Yes,
like there was.
Yeah, because what else was there? There was Daredevil, there was Catwoman, Elektra, there was Ghost Rider.
You're naming them.
Yeah, all these like standalone movies that tried to replicate what Spider-Man did and just failing spectacularly.
And and like you mentioned though, with Spider-Man and his age, it's very relatable in what's going on and what he's going through at that age for a high school kid. Anyone between 11 to 17 or 19 maybe. I don't know about 19. As soon as you start drinking, I don't think you could really take these films seriously.
That is a quote that I'm going to isolate and use in the future.
I'm just saying, like at 19, I feel like these guys are like, they're all like Flash watching these things,
It's true.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's at a certain point you kind of like, man, these are a little silly, but like it was built in. Like I want to say we were in the prime range for it.
We absolutely were, because the other thing too, I remember the only other movie / series I was hyped for was the Star Wars.
Yeah.
And the second one came out the same year as Spider-Man.
Attack of the Clones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And significantly, like, Phantom Menace has a bunch of little kid stuff. The story doesn't make any sense. I don't know why we were really interested in it, but like, this one, it made sense. It was a coherent storyline. It hit all the numbers. It was also, 9/11 had happened within a year of it, and based in New York, and the superhero. So it was a real big, America was rooting for
kind
this
of
film.
patriotic.
Yeah, like it just hit all of the notes at that time. And I remember being hyped. I remember it delivering. I remember that was like the first movie that like somebody else's dad would ask you, "Did you see the new Spider-Man movie?" And, and so that was my hype going into the first one. And then the second one, it was just that, and then you were hearing that it was actually good and getting like 94%.
Yeah, like people, like it was getting the respect that maybe the first one didn't necessarily get as much.
Right. And then the third one is, I was just telling you guys, like, midnight showing, and that's what we did in high school, was we go to a lot of midnight showings. And so I was going to drive to the IMAX from Muskegon, so that's a 45-minute to an hour drive with high school kids, like 16-year-olds. My mom said no. And to this day, I thank her every time I see Spider-Man 3, and I go, she got it right. Mom got it right.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to this movie at midnight. Your school's more important. And I remember I didn't talk to her for like 3 days. I was so upset.
Yeah.
Dude.
And then when I saw it, I immediately was like,
I gotta imagine I saw it in theaters. I cannot for the life of me remember where I was when I saw Spider-Man 3.
It was sad. It was a little bit... well, we'll talk about later.
Yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
I remember... I can tell you this. The first one in theaters, people clapping and cheering. The second one... it was loud and exciting, and like the theater felt hot. Like it was to the point, like at some point in that movie, Dad he goes, "I'm done chewing tobacco," and that was the last time he ever dipped.
Yeah,
was during that movie. So there was like there was an energy about it. And then the third one, I remember watching, and it was like crickets, packed theater.
Yeah,
no, but like the only time was people like LOLing out like hard.
And, I think some of the problem that you run into too is that there wasn't any competition from 1 and 2. Then when you got to 3, you had all these other standalone films out, so there was more merit on how to judge this one.
We gotta go bigger.
Yeah,
We need more.
yeah, we'll talk about it. And so that's where you kind of get into like the third one, and by no fault of itself either. It's not like you look back and you're like undeservedly got roasted. I mean, it's what it is. It's what it is.
Absolutely. So I'll just go through my experience real quick because I really don't have that much of one. Like I said, I'm kind of younger than the both of you. The first movie came out when I was 7. Second movie came out, I think, when I was like 8 or 9.
2004.
Yeah. So I really wasn't like that into movies that were like of that caliber yet. And then I think when I was 10... when I would stay at my grandpa's house for the summers when my parents both worked and he'd watch me, there was a video store that we could go to and rent movies from that was like right next to his house.
Yeah.
So we'd literally just walk down there and rent movies. And I'd usually rent the same movies over and over again because I was a creature of habit. I still am. But
God bless your grandpa.
Those movies... Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, that was my introduction to those movies, was after the fact, because I'd never seen them in theaters. I never caught them when they were playing at the cinema, so my experience with those movies was renting them from the video store, and I watched the first one, and I liked it. I think I was a little bit scared of it still, because, I was kind of a wimp, and the Green Goblin, played by Willem Dafoe, was genuinely scary for me at that time. And then I rented the second one, and I immediately fell in love with it.
Yeah.
I absolutely dug what it was going for. I was into everything about that movie. I just love Doc Ock. I love Spider-Man in that movie. I like the idea that he doesn't have his powers. And then the whole train sequence was just one of my favorite things ever. And then I remember having a lot of hype going into Spider-Man 3 when that was coming out. Now, when that was releasing, I think I was 12, I want to say.
2007.
Yeah, so at that time I was prime Spider-Man age. Like I was ready to jump into Spider-Man head first, right? And then the movie comes out and we don't go to theaters to see it because I think my parents didn't want to spend the money, so we waited until it was on like Charter on Demand or something.
Smart call.
And we watched it, and I remember thinking that wasn't as good as I was hoping. Spider-Man 3 is the first movie I ever watched that gave me the idea that movies could be bad.
Van Helsing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was mine.
That was your guys's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mackie was the one to tell me it. He's like, didn't you think that sucked? And I was like, what? No. And then I thought about it for like 3 minutes, and I was just like, oh my gosh, movies can be bad?
Yeah. And that was Spider-Man 3 for me. And,
Yeah.
Like I said, mine isn't like too in-depth, but I'm excited to dive into it and expand on what all these movies mean to us. So,
sweet.
Without further ado, I guess we can jump into Spider-Man 1.
Let's do it.
Who wants to summate this one
I
for
think
us?
you should get it because you
did
did the quote.
Okay.
I can't wait to do 3.
All right.
We can switch.
I want 3.
Simply off
I want it.
colors because Kyle was wearing red flannel. I had red, and then I was like, I bet you Sam's wearing all black.
We did
I
predict
am
you were
all
going to
black.
come
And then
in.
I was
Yeah.
like, you get 3 because of Venom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got
And
that.
I was just going to say the overall, everything is dark in that movie. There's nothing that's happy.
Oh, come on.
Before you summate Spider-Man 3, you have to pray to God that he kills Peter Parker, and then you can dive into it.
Yeah.
But first you have to do that. But right now we're talking Spider-Man 2002, directed by Sam Raimi, written by David Cope, starring Tobey Maguire as the titular character of Peter Parker / Spider-Man. James Franco as Harry Osborn, Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane Watson, Cliff Robertson as Ben Parker, and Rosemary Harris as May Parker. Shout out to J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson, and of course, Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin. And this is the story of Spider-Man getting his powers, dealing with personal struggles and sacrifices in order to become his friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yes.
Now, I think that's about as good as we can get without getting too much into spoilers. Spoiler warning for these movies, by the way. We're going to dive deep and reach the bottom with each and every one of them. Now, like I said, I didn't quite like this movie as much as the second one when I was a kid. And I was very curious how I would feel about this on a rewatch, right? Because I had always kind of like retained those same feelings carried into adulthood before I rewatched these movies for this podcast. And honestly, rewatching them, I kind of feel almost the exact same way about each one of them as I did when I first watched them. In that, I like this movie, and I like a lot of what this movie's going for, but it's got a lot of issues.
Yeah.
And it's heavily flawed.
And it's fun going back on these things because you have to watch it with a 2002 mindset with a 2024 lens. I mean, we talked about it, so it's kind of hard when you watch some of the special effects and the choreography and this stuff. And like, man, how far have we come?
Well, not only that, but like Sam touched on it too. The sense of patriotism the movie has. Too.
Is there some
mess with
propaganda?
one of us, you mess with all of us.
I thought
and like it ends with a shot of him in front of the American flag.
Yeah,
They did that
giant thing.
I think they finished filming before 9/11, and I think they went back to
They
CGI.
added that scene.
Sony kind of had a thing with everything going on that they pulled some scenes from it, and I guess one of the posters was actually Spider-Man on a building, and it was him looking at New York and the World Trade Centers in the and they pulled that poster. They were like, obviously it's not affiliated with it, but we don't want to touch on it.
Yeah.
But also at the same token,
it's
we're
a
going to
distraction.
we're going to be tasteful about it.
Yeah.
They didn't want people thinking about that event when going to see a movie and escaping reality for about 2 hours.
Especially this thing. Like, could you imagine if they legitimately had the towers or some like a real touching New York moment? Like they went sincerity, and then the next scene it's the Green Goblin dressed as a woman, like attacking him. It's like you just be like, this seems
a little
not
out of touch.
wholesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like a cash grab.
So one of the things I want to talk about with this is the pacing of this movie, because it's fucking breakneck. It wastes no time. I would argue it needs a little more time in order to set up some characters and their relationships with each other, because the first 15 minutes of this movie are, and I swear to God, this is all the stuff that happens within that time frame. He gets bitten by the spider. He gets his powers, right? Uncle Ben gets shot. He dies. He does like the whole wrestling stuff, blah, blah, blah. Robber gets away with the money. He lets him go. Uncle Ben dies, right? Kills the robber inadvertently because he falls out of a window. Norman Osborn's doing his bullshit with like the fucking
bullshit.
I say bullshit, to emphasize back to formula.
And we're having positive results. Only one of the 1,000 had an issue.
But that's enough to start back over, sir.
Yeah, scrap it. Back to formula.
Back to formula?
Yeah.
So he's getting his weird goblin mode abilities, right? And then he like flies to like an airstrip test zone from like one of the other companies, blows them up. That's like the first like 15 minutes of the movie. There's not much.
It's like 30. This thing is
maybe
2 hours.
20.
The crazy
Maybe
thing
20.
about it is
It all happens so quick.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the pacing. Is they go, like Peter gets introduced to the villain before either of them have powers or motives to attack one another.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then it goes Peter origin story, Goblin origin story, Peter origin story, Goblin origin story. And I swear, if you look at it, like when I was doing the research a year ago for this, I think it's every 5 minutes that they switch back and forth. That they go, all right, we're going to Green Goblin in the boardroom, and now we're switching back over to here, and they are both progressing at the same speed and level back and forth, which I think is pretty cool.
I'll say out my theory, and you guys can ponder with it whenever I agree with you. So, like we talked about the Death trilogy, I think this is the Man trilogy for superheroes. And the reason why I talk about it is there's a quote in Parks and Rec where they talk about Game of Thrones, and it's not like I'm just thrusting it in here, but Ben Wyatt's talking about Game of Thrones, and he says it's not just for fantasy it's not just for fantasy enthusiasts. There's the telling of human stories in a fantasy world, right? So with this, without the CGI and being able to have all those action sequences going on and expand on, you have to get the human story from Peter Parker, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously we got the duality of Peter becoming Spider-Man and him becoming a man in the world. So the first theory that I have is this is the masculinity story. Obviously, Peter coming in, going through some of his puberty phase, like he has a couple weird jokes in there with that. He's going
What are you doing up there? Nothing.
Yeah.
We're good.
You want a bite? No thanks. Had a bite.
Yeah. Well, no, there's one, dude. There's one where he's like flexing in the mirror. There's a lot of like weird, like half naked guys in this thing, and his Aunt May says something about like, "Hey, what are you beefing up in there?" And he looks down and he goes, "Oh, I've already gotten bigger."
Yeah.
You know, like I was like,
"That's change." He goes, "Change." Yeah, big change. Yeah, big change.
Yeah, and he's like looking down, and obviously he's probably not staring at his dick, but like it's very like innuendo in there.
There's a lot of those over him. They changed shooting webs out of canisters to shooting them out of your hand.
Which wasn't a thing in the comics. They made it an organic web shooter as opposed to like him making it in a lab.
He had a I guess the comics were canisters, but so the Norman Osborn feature is like the other side of that, where Norman actually is going through that physical change as he's beefing up and becoming this like monster of a person, and you got Peter going up and growing into the man that he's going to become is highlighted by Ben. Ben saying these are the times that what your actions now are going to define who you are, and so you got to watch it through that perspective as Peter's growing up from going into high school into becoming like a man. It's that idea of what's acceptable, what's expected of you, what are you supposed to do as you kind of go through and have all these actions. So the first one is masculinity, and the villain in it is actually like a masculine character, just beefs up into like this is what men are, terrorizing, doing this and that, blowing shit up, and
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah.
It coalesces nicely too with like Willem Dafoe constantly going on and on about like having to like step up and like how he's kind of like a father figure to Peter, as opposed to Harry, which is his actual son.
But it's so dumb because they meet, they're at a field trip. It appears that's in like spring of their senior year. He's like, "Peter, I want you to meet my father, Norman Oswald." It's like that. So this is the first time. Oswald. Osborn.
Where the hell are you going?
Yeah. And he's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the only connection they have is he's like, "I've read your paper on nanotechnology," and he's
really?
like, "Oh, really?
Something Harry didn't do.
Yeah.
He's too dumb to do it."
Deadbeat son over there.
Yeah.
Dressed as like he is on Freaks and Geeks.
Question two, but two questions. One, how dumb is Harry in this? Because as we go on, I don't know if he gets smarter, but like seriously, he goes, "You flunked out of every private school I've ever sent you to, and now he's at the public school with Peter."
Yeah,
and
in New York City, so that's got to be a lot of schools.
Yeah, like he threw him into one of them, right? Yeah. The other question is, how old is Peter's parents? Like, I was thinking about Aunt May.
You mean like Aunt May and Uncle Ben?
No. Parents. Because you have Aunt May and Uncle Ben, and we have aunts and uncles. You have aunts and uncles, right?
Right.
They are not like 30, 40 or 50 years older than you.
They appeared.
I feel like they're probably like grand aunt or grand
Well, you just opened up a good topic. What the heck is up with everybody's age in this movie? Peter looks like he's 28.
Oh, you mean you didn't believe the teacher was older than the students?
Yeah.
So I told Sam, I go, the first time I didn't come to the understanding, and I probably had because I've seen these films, but like I was watching it, I was like, that's the teacher. I thought it was like the leader of the class,
team captain.
And so I'm like talking to Sam, and I was talking to Sam about it, and I'm like, dude, if he just walked up and didn't say anything authoritative, like you would have thought he's just another classmate. Their real age, he's older than He's older than Tobey Maguire by 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks younger than Flash Thompson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In this movie.
It's-
And like as a kid when I watched it, it's like, okay, like I guess this really doesn't matter to me because I know he's the authority figure just by his like lines and his delivery and the way he's speaking. Like me as a kid, I did not pick up on that at all. Now as an adult, it's like that guy looks like he's younger than me.
Which is fine. There's young teachers, but like
Straight out of college.
yeah, guys with like full beards, like telling
Yeah.
him like, "Ooh, what's up, freak?"
But then when James Franco stumbles in with like 5 o'clock shadow after he's like smoked like 2 bowls of pot in the limo ride there, it's like how much of this can I suspend my disbelief for?
They cast all of these middle-aged 20 people and put them in high school, and then it's like within the first, I don't know if it's half of the first movie, but like, Peter runs into Mary Jane downtown New York, and he's like, "Oh my God, you're a waitress," and she's like, "I'll never be able to do." It's like, you're 19, you're a waitress. Like, she's like, "My career is over," and
He's
then they
in
go,
college.
and then he sees Harry, and he's at the dinner table. He's got glasses on. He's like rubbing his eyes. He's like, "These reports are killing me." It's like, what? Like that's like 35. Like,
Yeah.
What are you? Where are we right now? And then the thing with Aunt May and Uncle Ben,
Dude, it was driving
you
me
just
nuts.
said.
It was driving me nuts. Like I hadn't, because they're paternal figures, right? And you're kind of thinking elderly, so like great aunt, great uncle, and I'm like, all right, why didn't they just say that then? And then sometimes you have the family friend that you call uncle or aunt, just because they've been around. But then I'm like,
Yeah.
even if they're family friends, how fucking much, like, they had to have grown up with Peter's parents then.
I guess it's not like too much of a stretch for me personally because I have an aunt who she's a great aunt, but I just call her
We
Aunt
have
Helen.
a great aunt,
Yeah.
too. I'm not knocking that aspect. But, it's, and we do call her aunt.
It goes back to the writing.
Yes.
And when you have something that would be distracting like that, like, I don't know, let's say Arnold Schwarzenegger living in Minnesota going out to get his kid a toy for Christmas, you should have a background deal of like, hey, I'm so glad that we met when you were over in Austria.
Yeah.
And
Somewhere.
now you're living with me here.
Yep.
Like, just fill it
Look
in.
at the family photo, like, man, I wish I could go back to.
But again,
name it.
this movie moves at such a speed that those things don't, like, they literally jump in and they're like,
Oh.
he goes, hey, you're probably wondering if that's me. Well, it's not. I'm this loser chasing down the butt. And the guy's like laughing, making like he is the lowest one on the totem pole. Does he do anything that would deserve that sort of bullying or behavior?
No, it's cartoonish. It's exaggerated, but it makes for like a sort of fun dynamic at some points. It's very exaggerative and it's very like comic booky in that way. Like Peter Parker is such a nerd, such a dork, such a loser that even the bus driver is laughing at him.
Yeah, which I also was like, that guy should be fired. I don't know if
Yeah.
you guys
Oh, yeah,
had that.
100%.
Like, I was like watching, I was like, this is very.
When the bus driver's bullying you, that's a problem.
And then that's the
School
only
staff
thing
needs
that
to
would
get
make you
involved.
think that him and Mary Jane have a connection. Is she's like, can you just stop? You've been letting him go for 10 blocks now. And the guy's like, all right. And that's the only time that you, and they're not even in the same in the same shot or
No.
in the same vicinity. That's the only thing that would give you an indication that like, oh, maybe they should be together.
Yeah.
Everything else is it's bad.
Well,
And then you gotta wonder like how many friends does this guy have, and like Mary Jane's like kind of friendly with him when she remembers he exists, which is like very rare until he like becomes Spider-Man. And then he's got Harry, who's like this disinterested like pot smoking rich kid who like kind of just like, I don't want to say like steals some of like Peter Parker's like brilliance or whatever, but like he's telling jokes that like Peter Parker said earlier, and like he's getting away with it. He's getting some laughs. Like he's like that type of friend, you know?
Yeah.
A bad friend, just a bad person at all times.
Listen, everyone's complicated in high school. What
Yeah,
can I
right.
do?
You're right.
Especially
You're
when
right.
you're 25 and you're still a sophomore. It's a
Well, if you
confusing
get
world.
kicked out of every private school, it might take you a while to graduate.
That's true. They all just got held back. They're all
like,
really stupid.
They couldn't have did anything where those two guys have like a meaningful, like, oh, I can tell that they bonded, before he does all that shit. Like, it's literally like he just shows up. He's like, I'm the nerd. I'm the last to eat at the dinner table. By the way, this is my junkie friend. And then he comes out and he's like, oh yeah, meet my dad. By the way, I like Mary Jane. If you're not taking her, I am. And that's it. Like that's their first interaction. It's like nothing even speaks that they're even like close.
There's a lot going on at the same time. It's so fast. I will say this. I would rather have that as a scene to establish them as being friends than what we get in Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is where they just meet up, even though they don't even meet up in the first movie. Harry's not even in the first Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, God.
And they meet up, and they're like, hey, best friend. Hey, it's been a while, best friend. Hey, did you know that we're best friends? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, looks at the camera and smiles.
Yeah.
Like it's so ham-fisted. I would rather have that in this movie than what we get in Amazing Spider-Man.
I will
2.
say this too. I don't mind the breakneck speed on this thing because it flows like it moves fast, but it feels warranted. So I mean, I don't. With how quick it's going on, it's not like I needed more. If anything, I needed less of like, hey, I'm a nerd and everyone knows I'm a nerd. I wouldn't mind if they just opened up with him taking photographs of Mary Jane and like, dude, like you go say something to her. You know, like I was cool with the speed. But yeah, some of the relationship building in this is just
there is none.
There's virtually none.
It
There's
really
not,
feels
there,
like
there are people
like an alien made it, right?
Yeah, there's like people that are like that have relationships, but you don't see anything that would warrant that. Like,
yes,
whether it's father to son, friend to friend, girl to love interest.
Yeah.
It's all like ham-fisted. Like,
no, I will say this, and you can say whatever the fuck you want. Uncle Ben and Peter, the only meaningful conversation that whole goddamn film, is in that car scene.
That car scene, and then a little bit when he's talking to Mary Jane in the backyard. When she's like shaking out the trash, a little bit. Like those are the only two scenes you get where they're.
But she's like, remember when you used to come over here and like rake our dirt and shovel the dog poop? You worthless slime. You always look cute doing it. Like just basically stringing him along for something that she's gonna want in the next 2 months.
Oh, I never noticed you without your glasses.
Yeah.
Did you get contacts? He's like, something like that. Which are we okay? Let's address Tobey Maguire. Let's talk about Tobey.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Tobey, we're addressing you.
Hey, if you're listening, shout out Tobey.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm so mixed on him because one part of me loves the fact that he's like this huge fucking dork and that like they got him to play this character and there's really like nothing naturally funny about him. There's really nothing that special about him in terms of like him being a leading man. But the fact that he's so dorky and such a nerd, I think kind of fits, right?
He's good. Listen,
like I kind of really like him as Peter Parker.
I wish they would have started out in college as opposed to the high school. Like I feel it. And granted, they're going off the source material with the comic book, so I don't know how far along those get in his life. And there's a whole Spider-Verse, so it sounds like one of them made it to when he was in his mid-30s. So like, I just wish they would have had a different starting point. But I do think he's the right guy for that shy, bashful yet quick-witted.
Yeah, he's got like a boyishness to him, but then he's also like he looks 26. So then there's like a believability there that he has like the maturity to carry on as Spider-Man. But of course, he's got to learn shit.
Yeah.
It's the first movie, so he's got to do some growing, which goes back to what you said with the whole like manhood stuff.
Yeah, mask. I'm telling you.
I guess I'll touch on that when we get to like 3, my through line throughout the deal.
Well, I got, like I said, I got the Death Trilogy. This is the Man Trilogy, so Masculinity's one. I got 2 more that I'll throw on for you guys to chew on. But I liked them. We can give a shit about the age, we can say all this and that, but at the time, who else do you cast? Like I was reading, they wanted Gyllenhaal in this. They were looking
Freddie
at
Prinze
DiCaprio.
Jr. was going after it.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that I don't think they would have had too big of a persona around them or too much of a look. Whereas he they even talk about how he's like talking where he's kind of like whispering and he's got like a slit in his face. And
he almost kind of sounds like Michael Cera sometimes. Like he's got a meekness to him that like Leo wouldn't have had, Jake Gyllenhaal wouldn't have had.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
and they're also too handsome.
Yeah,
like Tobey Maguire's a handsome guy, but he's not like. You put Brad Pitt in there, and it's you're just like, all right. Like I know he's gonna save the day. You honestly believe that this guy's gonna be put into some binds because he doesn't look like a superhero.
The struggle, and that's a great point because you talk about heels and all that stuff and jobbers, and I mean like he doesn't have a leading man look to him, but he's definitely got his character. Like, as you're watching these things, you're like, man, he's going to be put in a difficult spot. And it's Tobey Maguire, our Spider-Man right there. But he looks like he's going to struggle with what he's going through. Like DiCaprio or, like you said, Pitt, Freddie Prinze Jr. get thrust in there, dude. Like, it's like Megamind, and like whatever, I can't remember, super whatever his name is, a Megamind shows up. It's just like, oh, yeah, he's got it,
Chad Thundercock.
Yeah.
Whatever his name is.
Well, it's a PG movie, so it could be, yeah.
Chad Thunder Rooster. There we go. And he also has that relatability to him that, like, you really didn't get with superheroes before that. Because, like we were talking about, you had Superman,
Clooney,
you had Batman,
Val Kilmer, Michael Keaton.
You had these, like,
Reeves,
very chiseled, charismatic dudes. And then you get, like, kind of doughy-faced Tobey Maguire. And all of a sudden, like, you can relate to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can, like, kind of vicariously live through him as a character and be like, oh, this is what I would have done if I were in his position. Or, like, oh, I would have done something different. Like,
he's got a bland enough face where you can just project. Like, boy, that could be me.
I'm not saying he's bad looking. He's more.
I'm agreeing with you. Yeah, I'm saying, like, there's enough of, like, that. Like, like Brad Pitt gets up there, you're like, no, never ever. But like Tobey Maguire's up there, and as like a 13-year-old, they're like, oh shit, maybe one of the days something will pop out of here.
Yeah. I truly believe, too, that that's also part of why, like, Spider-Man just as merchandise and as a costume is so popular.
Oh, because anyone could throw it on.
Anyone can throw it on. And that's kind of like one of the through lines with, like, these newer movies, too, is that, like, anybody could be Spider-Man. This could have happened to anybody. There's, like, all these different universes, all these different variants with, like, all these Spider-Men. And that's kind of the point, is that it could have been anyone in that position. It just happened to be Peter Parker. And he's dealing with the consequences of it and trying to morph it into his regular life.
Around this time in cinema, and I think it's the Jurassic Park effect, but Jurassic Park was like genetically mutated DNA, and we have now dinosaurs. And so for the next 10 to 15 years, all of cinema, when they wanted something done versus eating a magic bean or going through a time machine, they just said, let's just do some DNA genetically altering stuff.
Yeah.
And so then you get like Hollow Man, and then you get like, these other movies that everything is in all of these movies, it's all scientists screwing something up and genetically mutating to these supervillains, which is fine in the first one, okay in the second one, and by the time you get to the last ones, you're like, for good. That's why the Venom thing was just at least a little bit refreshing. It's like, hey, it's an alien source, but then they somehow botch, like, hey, we're taking it to scientists. Oh, it escaped the scientists. Like, it just, everything focuses around that notion. Yeah. Congo's another one of the genetically mutated.
Well, you got source material going on here, so it might be with the writers having to pick things, but I'm not going to diss Michael Crichton. He's a great writer. He also did Jurassic Park.
My name is Amy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess it's the same.
Yeah. So why don't you lay off? Okay?
Amy, sad. Amy, sad.
Yeah. What did he say in that movie with the
ugly
apes doing
bitch?
it?
Ugly bitch.
Remember the woods? He's like, those apes are going wild right now.
Oh,
that's the funniest thing you've said on the podcast ever.
Oh, and they were just fucking those.
You did an Ernie Hudson impression.
Oh yeah, when you talk about them, they're howling at the moon. You know what that means?
Oh God, I forgot about that scene when they got the tents and they're like, oh yeah, they're all banging right now.
He's like, it's a full moon, so all those apes are getting some action.
Oh, you guys are witnessing a miracle of nature. It's a monkey orgy.
Yeah. And then he looks over and goes,
howls at He's like, what?
Oh man, I forgot about that totally needless scene in a fucking film. It's a giant monkey orgy.
Oh my God. Great piece of filmmaking. Anyway, speaking of which, Spider-Man.
So I mean, with that, the funny thing with this is, and we'll highlight on all of them, is I like the failed science experiment, which it's gonna tie into with the Tom Holland ones. Failed science experiment leads to supervillain that gets insanity and can't remember anything, yet is being told by other voices to be a sociopath. Like, kind of wild. You know, and I don't know if that's lazy writing or because you say there's a little bit of an origin story there, and I'm like, well, how far do we get with the origin story and him because he totally forgets everything that's going on, and they tried.
Norman Osborn.
Yeah, like well, not like insane. Like I wrote down another character goes insane. Like it literally is failed science experiment, insanity. I turned into a sociopath. Like that's that's just it. Like if you threw in a couple ingredients,
his is the only one that's warranted because when they're talking about back to formula scene, which is great that the generals are there and they're describing the potion essentially that they're ingesting, the steroid, and then they say exactly the strength. You know that the thing that they were testing it on became 1,000 times stronger, and they go through everything and they spell out exactly what the power is. I really appreciated that because in the second one with Doc Ock, that doesn't exist. So when he, there's some stuff that happens there that you're like, well, excuse me. But in this one, you understand his strength capability. And so when he's going toe to toe with Spider-Man, you're like, okay, so Spider-Man is in fact 1,000 times stronger.
Well, they do say with the spider. So I was trying to pay attention to some of the stuff with like how they're setting up with the spiders getting like altered DNA wise. There is a spider that is able to. It's like 15. Well, maybe it's just the web. It's like it's 15 times its strength. Like that's how strong. Like if you were to do the tension on like a bridge, it could hold up like 20 bridges with this like one string. So I think they played a little bit into like showing where both of these guys are summoning their superpowers from, if you will. How
did they cover up the ones Mary Jane's like one's missing, and then the chick's like, oh, they're probably getting it cleaned up or something?
She said something like they're probably like getting him fed or some shit.
How
like
bad
cleaning
are
him
you
up.
at your job that you accidentally let out a mutated spider?
One that probably costs a lot of money.
Yeah,
like a lot of money.
And
like,
why are they genetically mutating spiders? What scientific? They're just like
for the field trip, Sam.
Yeah. Hey, you kids want to see something great? That's those kids
are
disinterested. They're like, look at the nerd.
Hey,
Parker's taking photos of these genetically mutated spiders.
You kids want to see some spiders?
That's such a great
question mark.
They took us to a field trip to McDonald's one time. Like we went to the McDonald's and saw people flip hamburgers. Those were the field trips we were going.
We went to a field trip to the grocery store.
Yeah.
You guys not joking.
Hey, someday you kids will be working here.
Oh, guess what, Sam? I worked at that same grocery store. Shout out to Orchard Market.
Let's go. Yeah, no, I do like it that they go like. I guess it's kind of lame that they're checking out mutated spiders, but then they're also picking on Peter while they're doing it. It's like we got to give the guy taking photos shit. Yeah. You know,
and there's one line where he's like, picks up his camera. He's like, for the school paper. And the lady's like, oh, certainly. And the kids behind him are like, nerd.
They bump him as he's taking the photo.
What
it's
do you think? He's going to
like
Columbia.
He's got a job, kind of, you know?
Yeah. You think the teacher would, be paying attention to this shit. It's like, hey, this kid gets picked on a lot more than any other kid in your class. You're very attentive about, like, other kids talking and, like, chewing gum and shit. But the second Peter Parker gets bumped, it's like, hey, I was looking this way. So I guess we're kind of, like, almost going in order a bit. So we're at the point where he gets bit. And then Spider runs away. They painted that spider, by the way. That's a real spider that bit him, which is crazy.
They trained it.
Why?
There's a Steve Strickner trained spiders, and he trained that one.
That's
all
pretty
the
epic.
things to just CGI the spider.
No, I like that it's real.
Yeah.
I like that it's
How
a real
dangerous
bug.
is that?
Meet the Parents dangerous.
Listen, sometimes you had to have guerrilla filmmaking techniques in order to get shit done. All right,
full moon.
I guess.
Intermittent CGI, which we'll talk about. But
I also like that. So they the best is like they do we're going to explain the spiders. We just want to let you know that all of this is kind of dangerous. It's mutated, like kind of leading up to it's going to be like he's going to be Spider-Man. Like, oh, he gets bit and nothing happens. They had to have the genome sequence being completed behind him just to make sure all audience members understood. Like, hey, guess what? This is happening.
Sequence complete.
Yeah.
Perfect DNA,
all
man.
All the montages like that are really like weird.
Dude,
they're very dated.
So
very
this,
dated.
I don't know what they are, but they're
fucking film is like PowerPoint presentation when people first got their hands on PowerPoint and were like, look at all the cool features we can do with the slides.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah,
Like very good analogy.
they do so much different shit. None of the transitions are like good. They all like everything's getting morphed. And Sam Raimi's just like, we can do that. Throw it in.
Listen, okay, I'm gonna say this right now. I really kind of like the way this movie's edited and like put together.
It does have a. I think
It's got like that Sam Raimi style that I really like.
Well, I think it's got a very comic book feel to it because
Yes.
those transitions in the panel sequencing, like without going Ang Lee, Incredible Hulk.
oh
you know?
God, yeah,
Yeah, like,
where it
it-
looks like an episode of 24.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we forgot about that when we were talking about superheroes
Superheroes.
around the time.
Yeah.
That's how great that movie was.
I think
Yeah.
I brought it up when you were talking about like genetic code and like
Yeah.
DNA
Yeah, there you
stuff
go. There's
being
another one.
used.
Yeah.
So like it definitely. I think it's. I like. Don't get me wrong. I like it. It feels of the time, but like as like watching, it's like pick maybe 2 or 3 and say with those. You
Oh
know?
man, I back it 100%. I'm full
Do
court
you
like
back-
balls to the walls editing in
Do you
this
back
movie.
the Green Goblin's face running into the camera going like, bah! And it's just a
Kinda.
random clip that's overlaid, or where they're doing the newspaper ones, and then Peter Parker steps out as Spider-Man, looks directly at the camera, and then walks off.
What?
Do you guys remember that?
No.
Like they're showing it's the where he's catching criminals, and they're showing the newspaper articles, and it's the people on the
Oh.
streets, and it's just like Spider-Man cleaning up the city.
Yeah.
And then he's like walks. He like I don't. They shot it in front of a green screen, and it's him overlaid, and he looks at the camera like hero pose, and then just walks off. It's like
Yes, there's things of that nature that happen in here.
that's
There's a whole
frequent. The fact that you guys don't even remember that just shows you how much of the movie is that.
That
You know,
just
like-
shows me how much of the movie is just perfect if I don't even think of it as an issue.
Yeah, so we get so then I mean it turns into Uncle Ben, and I don't know if you still feel the same way. I gave 3 good
Loser.
acting grades in this thing. 1, Willem Dafoe. I thought he acts his balls off.
He's
in
the
this
best.
Thing.
He's the best in all three.
Hands down.
Tied for best.
Number
Excuse me.
2 for me, the teacher with his 3 lines. He about the only. Sam's like he's whispering his lines. I'm like, yeah, because they're at a field trip. He's the only one taking the movie seriously.
Hey Osborne, I don't know what it's like at all your private schools you go to, but here we don't do that.
You gotta whisper it though. He's like very quiet.
I've got to like trail off.
the entire lecture.
Yeah.
One more word out of you, and you will fail this course.
That's what I'm saying. Like he's
He
very
like barely
his-
opens his mouth when he speaks too.
Dude,
It's like
and-
he's speaking through a funnel.
Yeah, because they're on a like, hey, you're the teacher on a field trip. They're supposed to be quiet. That's all the material we're getting. And that guy had 4 lines and nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben is the most wholesome motherfucker in this whole thing.
You don't like Aunt May?
No, she's
She's
trash.
a pile of dirt.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That makes me so sad. You don't
I
like
will
it when
say-
she says "Deliver us from evil" when
Oh my gosh.
he like invades the.
Finish it. Finish it.
Nice.
Ah. So,
Did she-
I want to say this movie is loaded with Academy Award winners, all of these, and
Yeah.
nominees. So Cliff Robertson, who played Uncle Ben,
Yep.
won for the movie Charlie, which is based on Flowers for Algernon.
Oh yeah.
Really good film. It's on YouTube. Check it out for his performance alone. J.K. Simmons,
Yep.
obviously. Willem Dafoe, who's been nominated. James Franco, Kirsten Dunst have been nominated.
The fuck's Franco been nominated?
127
Yeah.
hours.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right.
And then you have Octavia Spencer, who plays the...
She's like the wrestling like
Yeah.
desk worker to
Yeah.
like sign
Oh, yeah.
people
She's
up.
literally like, I'm sorry, can I help you?
Yeah.
Like one of those.
Yeah.
And I think there's... Joe...
Obviously Macho Man Randy Savage. Come on.
Oscar
so
nominated.
The thing that...
Okay.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
we were just talking about good actors. I'm
Well,
sorry.
there's Jim Norton, Lucy Lawless, like so who mentioned Jobbers earlier? This movie is Jobber Central. All
Yeah.
of these films. If you just watch the background actors, there's people dancing when there shouldn't be dancing.
Yeah.
They're reacting
Well-
to stuff that hasn't happened, or reacting to stuff like it didn't happen. And then you even have like like Jim Norton, who's a stand-up comedian, like notable, but he's like, Spider-Man, hate him, and he stinks. And he gets back in his truck.
They get like one shot of like they had to get a guy to say something bad about Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's just like, I hate Spider-Man. I think he stinks.
Yeah, and you get and Elizabeth Banks plays the chick at the Bugle.
yeah. Yeah.
So
Betty
there's-
Brant, I think her name is.
Yeah, and all of them, all of them were up and comers at the time.
Yes,
and
true.
they didn't really have it. And then even the dudes, you mess with one of us, those lines too. I remember most about the film. Like the jobbers in this movie steal the show for me.
When New York comes in and they help Spider-Man because he's in need of the city's help and the city backs him up because he's their guy.
The homeless guitar player looks like a spider, walks like a man.
Here comes a Spider-Man.
Yeah, woo!
I liked him. I thought he was funny.
A lot of people
I know.
Yeah.
A lot of the things in
people-
this movie is funny.
Yeah, it's very
enjoyable.
Yes, I was about to say
for
it's
all the criticisms we'll have. When I was just driving here through a blizzard, I was ear to ear grin thinking about
how much shit just happens.
They call it the bollocks, the nonsense, just the silliness of these movies.
It's a
brings
nice use
smile
of
to
a
my
British
face.
word right there.
Yeah,
I
The
appreciate
bollocks.
it. Yeah.
So Macho Man got talked about, right?
Yes.
He apparently got hurt on set because he didn't want to have a stunt
He wanted to
double.
do his own stunt. Yeah.
Yeah, so he fell on his neck, and I
I thought that whole thing was so stupid because it's they have real people presented in these movies are and so just leave him as Macho Man. Just do the rights. It's a name. Like people they see him on the Slim Jim commercials. They're gonna react. You make him Bonesaw, and people are like,
who?
it's a little bit confusing. And then they bring down the hokey Cage. I'm a wrestling fan, by the way, big time.
Oh, I couldn't tell by the use of the word jobber.
And Mackey's Diaper Party. That was dedicated to an obscure 90s wrestling promotion.
Uh-huh.
But that whole deal, and then on top of it, too, it's like he's entering this thing to win $3,000 to get a car so he can impress the chick. It's such a...
Masculinity.
I guess that's the only thing that would make sense about all of that.
You take.
I love the through line with it though, where he's reading the newspaper, he sees the car he wants, and then right below it, it's the wrestling thing, and that's what leads him there. And it's all like a chain event of things going on.
Breakneck pace, like you said.
Breakneck pace. I like some of it. Some of it annoys me. I will say, if his name was Macho Man Randy Savage, we wouldn't have such iconic lines like "Bonesaw is ready."
Dude,
You're right.
we knew football players that had nicknames. They called themselves Bonesaw.
Yeah, and he would do that during the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's it's enough of a character to stick around for all of 5 minutes.
I just didn't like the Cage comes down, he hides up there, and
Kind
then
of pussy.
It's like,
Yeah.
but it's like you could have
sissy.
just stood up there for 3 minutes and taken your money, and for whatever hey, that's a cute outfit. Did your girlfriend make it?
Did your
for-
husband make
oh,
it
yeah,
for
your
you?
husband.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm watching that, and I was like, I know that wrestling has certain things going on with it. I was like, he's getting his ass beat.
homophobic.
No, dude, he pulls a chair. Did you see him beat the shit out of him with the chair?
He had a crowbar.
Yeah.
He was going to hit him.
That's
full
what I
force
was.
with a
I'm
fucking
like
crowbar.
watching this. I was like, this feels kind of inappropriate for just WWE.
And
Yeah,
they're letting people off the street sign up to possibly win $3,000.
Yeah, and I'm like sitting there, I was like, all right, the Cage is kind of like, oh man, that's a little intimidating. And then he pulls out the chair. I was like, all right, this seems like kind of like inappropriate. And then he gets a crowbar. I was like, he could fucking kill him. This isn't like wrestling.
The
this
crowd
is
is
murder.
chanting, "Kill him! Kill him!"
No wrestling moves either. It's
Well, the choreography in all of these films is fucking awful. Like the fighting, all of it is like they were like, we're gonna focus on the story and Spider-Man. We don't care about these action sequences. Like, dude, him and Willem Dafoe at the end, they had to do cut scenes between each landed punch.
Yeah.
We'll get into it when we talk about
Yes.
the second one. I think the second one hits a almost perfect balance of a mix of CGI versus actual practical choreography.
Yes.
Whereas the first one is, I agree, it's very janky. A lot of it's very quick cut, very kind of messily edited.
Yes.
And then the third one is way too CGI heavy. Fully leans into the special effects, PS3 graphics of it all.
Yeah.
I think the second one is a good balance of the two of those.
And we'll be able to talk about that because I actually have production notes on that one.
I cannot wait.
Oh, and to give you guys a heads up too as we talk about these. So apparently, did you know? So Franco and Maguire had beef.
Yeah. And that's maybe why their friendship looks awful on camera.
That's what I was going to say, too. So there's like the media thing out there that was, because I think Maguire was dating Kirsten Dunst at the time.
Yeah, that's what I read.
Apparently on set, James Franco said Tobey Maguire looks like a frog doing all of his stunts. He called him the Frog Man. And Maguire took it very seriously.
Because his face is kind of froggish.
Yeah.
Like rounded and wide eyes.
Yeah. I mean, it was just kind of, hey, man, you look like Kermit. Like, took it seriously, and they fucking did not like each other after that.
Well, nobody liked Toby on set.
Really?
I listened.
Well, he was part of the
what is it
pussy
called?
posse, right?
Yeah,
with Leo. Yeah.
Oh, God. Oh.
Do you know about that, Mac?
No, I don't.
It's like a group of young actors at the time. So, like, think of, like, Timothy Chalamet, Tom Holland, like Austin Butler now, right?
Yeah.
Where, like, you had Leo, you had Tobey Maguire, you
the
had,
guy
like,
from Entourage.
I think
not the main dude,
Ryan Phillippe, I think, was in it, maybe.
Who's
Okay.
Kev, the little guy that's his manager.
Oh, yeah.
He was in it.
Oh,
They
really?
were all a part of this,
nice.
like, this so-called,
Good for him.
like, friend group amongst, like, Hollywood celebrities with each other that were, like, young dudes that they referred to themselves as the Pussy Posse because they liked getting girls.
Yeah, okay. All right, there's a full moon tonight.
And Tobey Maguire was a part of that group. And so, like,
I can't see that at all.
it's not surprising that, like, he might have had an air about him that people didn't quite care for.
Well, and so he took the role, and it drew Kirsten Dunst into the role because she thought it'd have a more independent film, because I guess that's kind of some of the films that he was going with wasn't really heavily produced or with big production houses. So she thought that him being in it meant that this was going to be a little bit more grounded in reality, and which, I mean, it was, so that's why she took it. So that's why I guess I'm a little alarmed, disturbed that he's part of this group.
I mean, hey, that's the natural reaction you should have to learn that Tobey Maguire is part of what's called the Pussy Posse.
That's awesome, though. I mean, that is like a shirt.
I mean,
where are you gonna wear that to?
Yeah,
the Pussy Posse with like Tobey Maguire's face on it.
You're gonna go to the grocery store.
Bring Preston to the amusement park. See
the guy running the ride in that shirt.
I think it's more irony to have Tobey Maguire's face on there. I put the
you
Pussy
can only
Posse.
wear that to like parties, and that's it.
No, well, yeah, probably. I mean,
probably to this podcast.
Well, if you wore it out in public, like you'd have to. If someone, well, no one would get the joke, but.
You have to explain to every single person that looks at you funny. No, this is a meta reference.
Yeah. Look at this guy.
I swear I'm being funny. So he wrestles. The guy doesn't give him all the money. And then he's like, well, F you, I'm leaving. And then he gets robbed immediately after that. Robert comes in, runs towards the elevator. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man lets him go because obviously he's pissed at the guy not giving him all the money. Guy thanks him. Guy's like, what the hell? You let him go. I missed the part where that's my problem.
Which was awesome.
Until you learn that guy goes and shoots Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
Or did he?
Oh.
Hold
on.
Yeah,
I'm not there yet.
But I won't tell.
Yeah.
And Uncle Ben's sitting there and he's like, Peter. I forgot what he said.
Oh my gosh. That whole thing. Peter.
Whatever. That's one of the more realistic ones.
I was gonna say, I really like that.
Yeah,
it's
him and Defoe's deaths are actually like. I was like,
I think I'm just annoyed that he's like, you want to help me paint the kitchen, and they do it in like 4 hours, and you know how you guys know how long it takes to paint anything, and it's just like
Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben is so, and he won an Academy Award or was nominated. Like you're giving Cliff Roberts and shit. He's like one of the.
Apparently, he's like a really nasty person.
I could believe it. I mean, he kind of has that like scowl, but. In this film, he was wholesome, and he's sitting there and he's dying, and he looks up.
He asked his nephew to paint the walls with him.
Who's living with him for free, and we don't even know the relationship.
Paint the walls.
How dare he?
Sitting there.
Hey, Michelangelo, don't be late. All right, we got the kitchen.
Yeah.
Don't start up with me.
Computers.
Don't start out with me.
Yeah.
What's he say? He's like, you need a computer, a computer analyst. Even the computers need to be analyzed. Like, I don't know, Mary. This world's just a little too sophisticated for me.
I like how his death scene is played out because it feels like it's not going for that whole like, oh, he's trying to tell Peter something profound, or like he's trying to tell him that like, oh, I love you, Peter, blah blah blah. He's literally just saying Peter because like he can barely get any words out, and then he just kind of fades.
Kind of
away.
happy to see him. I was like, I was just like, man, like at least I'm dying. At least you'll be the last thing I see, and not just like this New York skyline.
Yeah, it felt kind of realistic to me in that way. It didn't feel like too drawn out or like
He's
over
like
the
choking
top.
on his blood. He's got tears coming down his face. He's like, this is it.
Yeah.
Peter. And then Toby's crying face. That's a meme.
That
Just
is,
point them out as we go along.
that might have been
I'm
one of
somewhat
the
of a
first
scientist myself.
Yeah, meme.
which I wanted to squeeze in there so bad, but there was no opportunity for me to jump in with that. So I'm glad you brought it back
Could have
up.
done it after the Congo joke.
I really.
That might have made me
Laugh even harder.
put on a diaper.
I don't know. Monkey orgy could probably go on a shirt.
That's gonna be a clip. I swear. I'm gonna make it into one.
Oh, we have, yeah.
So yeah, he gets kind of revenge. The guy trips out of a window, and then he takes up the Spider-Man mantle from then on. And then like Norman Osborn, meanwhile, is doing all of his stuff. He becomes the Green Goblin. Out, am I?
Yeah.
that whole stuff happens. And
Side note, I sent it to Mackie, but top 5 weirdest looking actors with their shirts off. Willem Dafoe is
100%.
you think
definitely
he's
on
weird
there.
looking in that movie? You should see him in one of his more recent films, like Inside, where he's like stuck in a penthouse
I really
and he's an
wanna
art
see that.
thief. I'd be curious what you think of it.
Yeah.
But the
Nice.
movie is just him, and like you see a
Shirtless
lot of like
inside,
different vulnerable parts of Willem Dafoe, and it is a sight to behold.
Yeah, he's one
Just
that
a
doesn't
weird
care.
looking guy, but
Just a weird looking
Dude,
guy
he
in
got
general, but
on
he
there.
fits so much.
Well, he gets in there. I'm like, I don't know if they should have did the shirtless scene before, because now it's like, all right, I want to see how beefed up he gets. 1,000%.
Yeah.
He comes out, he's like exactly the same. I was like, there must be some tension in the muscles or something, because he doesn't look any bigger.
It made his bones more dense. That's why he's stronger.
Yeah. That was like another weird scene choice of like, hey, put him in a leotard in there or something like that. So if he comes out, like, we're not sitting there going like, all right, 1,000%.
Something that I noticed this time that I didn't necessarily notice any other time I watched this movie is that, to me, they do such a good job of slowly converging the regular Norman Osborn with his Green Goblin personality,
Yeah,
because they start out pretty separate at first, right? Like
Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde,
Yep.
and then like as the movie goes on, it becomes harder and harder to tell like who's in control.
He starts to embrace it.
He starts to accept it, and it starts to actually like take over parts of him, and therefore like you don't even recognize like who is Norman Osborn and who is Green Goblin.
I mean, by the end of the film, when he's doing this whole thing, like, you're not sure if he's had a moment of clarity or if it's still a ploy.
yeah.
I mean, it turns into a ploy, but at that time, like, as he's going through, you're like, oh man, he might maybe he's coming too,
Mm-hmm.
well, the boardroom scene is phenomenal because somebody broke it down that he goes through the 7 stages or whatever it is of grief in that but he does it within a minute.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's how good Defoe is in general. Do you have any idea how much I sacrificed? And then he's like,
There's the meme.
but Doc, please.
3. Yeah.
No, wait, what? You can't do this to me.
What?
Like,
You can't
he
do this
bounces
to me.
through all of those, and it's seamless throughout the movie.
He,
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail the
I
entire
don't know why my
thing.
leg cramped up when you turned it.
Oh. I was gonna say I must have done something. I'm sorry, Sam.
There's something going on over here.
Did I mention that I'm younger than you guys? Anyway, you were talking about Willem Dafoe in the boardroom scene.
Yeah, I think throughout the whole movie, and that's what's so refreshing is like, I think that was a perfectly cast guy and an excellent actor going into this campy, silly movie and crushing it. And
Totally
J.K. Simmons
embracing
the
it,
same.
right?
What's that?
like embracing that he's in this thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because he's
he's
funny and menacing at the same time.
We'll
in
bring it up,
scenes.
but there's some other trivia on it.
What is it?
Huh? Oh, I can say it now. So, I think he's in the second or third one, right? When Harry...
He's in both of
second.
them.
So I think the second one, he actually didn't live too far from where the shoots were at. So he just went to stop by the set and say what was up to Sam Raimi and see the guys. And Raimi's like, hey, you want to partake? And he's like, sure. Like, it wasn't even supposed to be cast. He just
Hey,
happened to go...
Good choice.
You know what I'm saying? But like, that's how cool. Like, that's what Gary Oldman in this thing. You think Gary Oldman's happy after Spider-Man 1 comes out?
I I don't understand your question.
There are actors I think that take on roles to fund their independent projects. Where I feel like Willem Dafoe will hop into some weird films,
Yeah.
to make a bunch of
Okay.
money to film, at Eternity's Gate, right?
Yeah, or like Inside, or
Yeah, like
whatever.
I
Me,
know.
one for you.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make a lot of money on this thing, so like we'll generate some profits and I can go do my But like those guys that take those films, like I'm thinking Gary Oldman in The Fifth Element, like totally did it out of courtesy for the director, and he did it as a favor, right? He's like, I've never seen that film since it came out. It's totally ludicrous,
He's excellent in it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I mean, it's like one of those things where you'd think Defoe would be like, all right, one for you, and like
Yeah.
I'll be in it. But no, he totally embraced being in it, and then he ends up being in the next one because he's like, shit, there's food right down here. I want to say what's up to everyone.
He's like, I just came by for craft services. I was hoping to get a sandwich. They're like, you want to be in the movie? He's like, oh, that'd be excellent.
He kind of reminds me of like a Nicolas Cage type, where like it feels like every role he has, he puts 100% effort into.
Yeah.
Whether or not like the movie's going to be good, bad, ugly, whatever, it's just going to be the best performance in the movie.
He might be a really just wholesome dude outside of the films. Like,
I've seen a few videos of him, and he seems pretty genuine.
I think
like
you
I think
gotta
he
be.
just
if you're a notable actor for over 40 years, that means you're bankable, you're good at your job, and
Yeah.
people like to work with you.
well
Yes.
that, and I think he also just like really loves acting.
Yeah.
He just
Yeah.
loves playing characters.
Yeah.
And you get that sense from like very early on. Like, have you ever seen those videos where he's like a teenager and
Yes.
he's reading those lines from like a play or something, and they're like going over like these rehearsals or stuff? It's pretty nuts.
Really?
Because same face on like a 12-year-old's body, basically, just with less wrinkles, right?
That's so weird.
But
Think about.
it's kind of uncanny, but that video perfectly exemplifies just how much he's been
Yeah.
into this for so long.
And he's not above it. That's
No.
the thing. He's not above it. So he's like, yeah, I'll play Norman Osborn, sure.
Yeah,
Like,
you don't
I'll
get
hop
the
in
sense
here.
that it's like an Alan Rickman thing in the Harry Potter movies, where like he feels
Yeah,
above this. Like
right.
he
That's what I
totally
was
ingrains
kinda-
himself within the world.
That's what I was kind of getting at. Was like, I wonder how he views it, and it sounds like he probably was just like, yeah, it's part of my zeitgeist now, and I appreciated being around everyone and love being on set.
And it's funny too that the movie, like, everybody glowed up from the movie. If you saw it in 2002, even though we're praising Willem Dafoe, we would be like, you probably had never seen him before you saw that.
Yeah,
Maybe like American Psycho, but that might have been it.
Right. Like if you were a real big movie buff, like if we were in 2002, we would know him.
yeah.
But there was, and that's
Speed
for everybody
2.
in that movie. Yeah, Speed 2.
But actually, that's probably I probably recognized him in that
Yeah, I
one.
probably did too.
You're like,
With
oh,
the
hey,
leeches, like,
yeah.
yeah, I know this guy's bad.
that's Leech guy.
Yeah.
Oh, he's pretty leechy in this movie as well, in some ways.
Dude, this film grossed $100 million on its opening weekend. It was like it held the record for, I don't know, 15 years for most money made on opening weekend.
Made,
Even
like, 800 million
probably
worldwide.
Like 1 year, but it was the first one to break up. It was the first movie
adjusted
that-
for inflation.
No, but
Yeah.
that the studios recognized, like, oh, we can make money on the opening weekend.
Yes.
and within
That led to the May.
So if you, I
Well,
know
there was
Dark
a couple
Knight,
films before
Dark
that
Knight in 2008 made 185 million that opening weekend.
because there's nothing coming. But you're speaking of, you're saying glowed up. I think the success that this film franchise, or at least this one, brought, elevated, except Tobey Maguire, people's careers.
Even Tobey Maguire.
He had a little bit of a spurt after Spider-Man, a little bit. Like he
Sure.
played in that Bobby Fischer movie, right? Where he's
Yeah.
a little chess boy.
Yeah.
Little Bobby Fischer.
Only 12 years after the movie,
Yeah,
he
that's
got
what I
that.
was like.
He got that big role.
I don't remember when that
Play
was.
the chess genius.
I also don't remember the title of the film. It might just be Bobby Fischer. But
Yeah, you're probably right. Tobey Maguire's the only one just
yeah.
be like, I'm taking the
Well,
residuals.
you get an acronym or a title like Pussy Posse Guy. Like it's
Yeah.
hard to break that one.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't the only one. He just, I don't know. Something about him, man.
Yeah, he's bland.
Well, maybe it was one of those things.
Shit.
Maybe it was one of those things too, where like maybe he had a hard time getting roles because people could only see him as Spider-Man. I
True.
don't know. I'm just speculating
No,
at
that's
this point.
probably
Typecast,
accurate.
yeah.
And he doesn't want to play like some weird, creepy, whatever. Like his agent's like, you are 100% not doing that because we have the third movie still to come.
Yeah.
You're not going to take this indie weird role or whatever. Like, toe the line. Wait
Yep.
till we get done with this franchise. And it might even been in his contract with who did it, Warner Bros. Or I don't know the studio.
Sony. Yeah.
So
Sony.
he probably.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably in his contract that you can't do a role like that.
Yeah.
You know, I know the other like Marvel guys are in that.
I mean, I'm just thinking about it. He
Handicap.
doesn't have a personality in this, right? Like,
Describe his personality.
Dorky.
Is he conflicted at all? Like, in the second one, I think we get a little bit more.
In the
of
second
it.
one, he's way like
Very
that's,
conflicted in the
that's
second
very
one.
like central to his character, I would
Right.
say.
So I'm going to say it right now. Part of the masculinity theme goes with growth of becoming who you are, you know, and that's why I liked Uncle Ben's line of the actions you take now are going to define the man you become, and you get to see that throughout the movie. And you can tell it might not necessarily weigh on him consciously, but subconsciously with what he's doing and where he decides to go, you know, it holds true throughout the film, and even by the end of it. I don't remember if there was a quote or if there was something there that you could sense that, oh, yeah, he has taken these words to heart.
Yeah.
You know?
Green Goblin's doing his thing. Him and Spider-Man have a few run-ins. You know, there's the whole balcony scene where he like blows up all the Oscorp executives.
Why is Harry on that balcony?
He's part of memories running the reports.
Yeah, like he graduated high school. His dad's like, "You're a deadbeat, but I'm proud of you.
You're
like,
my new
for graduating
CFO."
this."
Yeah.
And then Peter, you know?
Yeah.
And so within 4 months of them graduating high school, they're living in downtown, I think Manhattan, or New York City. Mary Jane is a waitress. Peter is part-time photographer, college student, and Harry is running the whatever department of Oscorp. And it's like, did we just jump 10 years into the future? Like, and how they're reacting?
It
like,
really feels that way. Like, college is something like a throwaway line to make sure that everyone understands they're still young.
Yeah, you get like a few scenes, especially in like the later movies with Peter in college, but like it's really not much of a thing in the first one. It's just kind of there.
It really felt like someone's like, we fucked up the casting. We got to escalate the timeline here without actually doing much. Because like we could just say, hey, they're in college. I feel like because he's like, hey, I'm flunking out of Dr. Connor's class or whatever. And that'll be enough.
I missed Dr. Connor's class again.
Yeah,
that's your third time in 2 weeks,
bro.
man.
Was that with Harry?
Yeah, Harry.
That's probably the closest they ever were.
Yeah, that's the only time that they're like friends. Where he's like, again, Pete, dang,
dude,
like,
you're turning into me.
I'm thinking maybe what their goal with that was. They probably hired them, obviously, knowing that, you know, they look a little bit older than high school seniors, right? And then their hope was probably, we're going to have it be a more easy transition, a believable progression of time from when they go from high school to college. So that way, like, when they look older and they're in college, it's a little bit more believable than the other way around.
And we don't have to say they're freshmen in college. They're in college. They could be juniors.
Something.
They could be,
this
they
might
could be
3
22,
years,
20.
But it's really one.
They don't have to get, like, super specific with it or anything.
I really
know?
do think that
Not
because
that they do anyway.
And it might not have been Phantom Menace because obviously they were shooting when that was coming on, but some like the child actors, they didn't want to go 18 to 20 hiring a person to lead a franchise. Like they're like, we need to get a name, we need to get someone that looks young, that has some moxie, that's gonna fit in this role, you know, because like. And it makes you curious. But I mean, like the Harry Potter films, they hired, you know, Harry's gonna grow up and be Harry throughout the whole franchise. So like, we got to get this right. And like, I'm sitting there watching. I was like, why can't you just get someone that's in their 20s? But I honestly think that there's no one probably around the time, and they fuck up a hiring like that. You know, you have to live with the next 2 films.
Yeah.
So you know,
I agree with that.
And that's why you get some of like, we're gonna progress it, and we're just gonna
they have like
very,
a $10,000 a month apartment in Manhattan, like a really cool place. And it's just
Harry
two.
does.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Peter
that
lives
covers.
with some really.
So are those two just roommates?
Who?
Harry and Peter?
Okay.
Huh. Harry, Peter. That's weird.
Love triangle?
You see what I'm saying?
Puberty.
Yeah. Like I think these movies are. I think it's kind of about Peter coming out of the closet.
Okay. I don't know about that.
I'm just throwing it out there.
I
Does
did
he
re-
ever really seem like he loves Mary Jane?
Yeah,
he
dude,
seems
he's
confused.
a dorky.
I'm confused. I don't know what I like, but I like it all, kinda.
Stop lecturing me, please.
You know what I mean? Like what else would there be for Harry and Peter to be together if they aren't secret lovers?
Fucking because he's like, I'm the CFO of my dad's $1 billion company, and you're some
And he barely passed high school.
You're some poor kid that lives with your aunt that we don't even know who she really is.
Your grandma aunt.
New title.
Grandma aunt.
Yeah, grandma aunt friend.
Auntie Granny.
Yeah. Like, dude, the one thing that I kept reading that they were like, we really want to nail is like Peter Parker is the lowest of lows. Like, he is a poor kid, but not only is he poor, he doesn't have parents. So it's not Bruce Wayne that was no parents billionaire. Like, this is no parents, you know. You don't have any fucking money. Like, you have to do 3 jobs just to make sure that you get by. And like, that's why he lived with Harry, because he's like, oh, dude, really? Like, you'll pay my rent? Sure.
Yeah. I wouldn't blame him in that scenario
I
at all.
work at the Daily Bugle. I get paid $50 a fucking photo.
Yeah.
Like, and that's my competition.
$50. Hate it. I'll give you $10 for all of it.
It's crap.
Yeah.
It's crap. I'll give you $100 for all of them.
Yeah.
And I think
that's a
he's
day's
the-
worth of work too.
Dude, J. Jonah Jameson. Like
he actually got another A.
he's the best comic relief.
He's the lifeblood of this movie, this whole franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, every time you see him on there, you know you're gonna laugh. You know that he's, you know.
I think that in the third one he got a little too much screen time, but that's just me.
I don't even remember him in the third one.
I would argue the opposite. I feel like they watered him down in the third one.
They watered everyone down.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with you on that.
Yeah, but no, he's really good in this. I mean, he fits in. He's got like one note, but he plays it so well.
They knew that like they couldn't replace him in the MCU, so they just thought, let's just get the guy back and have him play the same character.
Why not?
Why would we replace him? Like nobody would like that.
No.
Nobody would like that decision
who
at all.
could even come close? Like, you would need to get like.
You need to change the character completely.
You need to have like Tom
yeah.
Cruise do it, just so people can laugh and be like, Tom Cruise is playing.
Yeah,
J. Jonah Jameson.
yeah.
You'd have to
Otherwise,
rewrite the
nobody could
character.
do it legit.
Yeah. He'd have to be an entirely differently written character in order for somebody else to play him. Because J.K. Simmons brings that like angry, raspy energy so well in these movies.
Dude,
And
he did the behind the scenes, like the extras I was watching, and you could tell, and like I think he might have thought he was a little bit above this film. He's
Oh, really?
What did you be?
dude? He
You're,
was
looking
like,
at the sets. And
he's
looking
like-
at those lines.
it's like, oh, you know, coming back for the third one, it was great. You know, it's like, oh, hey, I get to hang out with these idiots again. What a great time. You
Yeah.
know, and but wasn't like doing his like J. Jonah tone. It was definitely like, I'm fucking back here to take a paycheck, and I have to deal with kids.
Yeah. He's
You
like
know?
trying to make the best of it, but you
Yeah,
know, he's
I'm-
J.K. Simmons.
I'm a one-note character in this fucking comic book franchise.
Yeah.
He
Hey,
is a Michigan guy.
he does
Yeah.
it
by the
well.
way.
I found that out recently because of the whole Lions stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because he was at the game, wasn't he?
Ooh,
He was on the list to be at the. I didn't see him in the.
Wait, where'd you get that list from? I thought you made that list.
No, it was on Twitter.
Oh, those were the
Yeah.
people. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I was because like I was going through your list. Like I was like,
Yeah, I got a coworker showing it to me, so
The
that's
list?
how I know it.
yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, that's really cool,
Yeah.
and he's part of our discussion.
Newly learned thing today. That is true. That's very apropos to it. You notice how I use that word that you like to use a lot?
I love apropos.
I know you do. You
Yeah.
pull it
Yeah.
out almost every episode we have.
so
I
you
figured-
stole it from me.
I
this
beat you to the
time.
fucking punch. And speaking of punch, we do get some more cool fight scenes after Peter Parker goes into the house fire. Which let's talk about the house fire
Cool
scene.
fight scenes.
You know, I gotta set the mood. I gotta set
I
the
will
scene.
say in 2002 they weren't
and
like
epic.
it, dude. It definitely was like, whoa. You know?
I think-
yeah.
Look at Spider-Man running in a straight line as the Green Goblin's about 20 feet behind him, missing with his. Yeah.
Whoa.
That's cool.
Yeah,
They're bouncing on balloons.
I will say this as a kid, you know, because there's that whole like house fire thing where
Yeah.
he goes in, saves the baby, and I like the fact that you don't even see him like in the house when he's saving the baby. You just see like the mother and the like first responders' perspective.
Yeah.
Like the horror on their faces.
By the way, she left the building without her child.
Okay.
Hey, listen, she was maybe she went out to get some cigarettes. I don't know.
It's like an airplane. You know, if you take down the thing for yourself first. You know, it's not the person next to you.
Anyway, he goes in, saves the kid, comes back out, drops the kid off, and then hears someone else crying in the building, goes back up. That scene scared me so much as a kid.
The noise
framed,
he makes, yeah.
The
It's
noise,
jarring.
like all the fire, like that's the first time you see the interior of the fire going on, and like it's framed like a horror movie almost. I mean, I guess that's apropos to like I used it twice, by the way,
There it
to
is.
Sam Raimi being a horror director. So I guess that kind of like
makes-
evokes some of those feelings, right?
I did write tonal issues with this because there's a couple. He throws in some jump scares.
He's like pulling from like when he directed the Evil Dead movies. It feels like
the phone call where he's at the hospital and Green Goblin comes on. He's like, "Can Spider-Man come out and play?"
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
that was kind of creepy.
It's like that
was
same-
a little,
he does.
kind of framing, yeah. And so like he's going towards the old woman, and then it turns around. Oh, jump scare! It's Green Goblin. Which,
Yeah.
by the way, what a great impersonation of an old lady scream that he's doing. Like,
Well, I think he's got it like automated. He's pressing a button.
is it a recorder? I like to think that he actually made the sounds
He's
with his voice.
multi-personality. He's making the sound.
Oh, okay. That's 2-on-1. I'm in the wrong.
2-on-1 players sway.
Thanks for coming, Mac. We appreciate it.
I'm not sure how I feel about the Matrix ripoff with him doing the like falling to his back, like
Oh, when he
Dodging
throws
the-
it's
Yeah,
of the time.
yeah.
That's what I'm going. I love when it's of the time. That is so true.
oh,
like,
when he's like throwing the like
Yeah,
boomerang
there
thing.
are-
Does that
so-
segue right into the Thanksgiving dinner? After
It does.
Because
Yeah, because he gets his
yeah.
arm cut, and then the whole
Yeah.
Thanksgiving scene is like the whole tension of his arm bleeding.
Okay, so we get one. Why did they have to make him so fucking weird? Like he does, like Norman, and then he
Yeah.
just
Oh yeah, where he's licking his finger.
Yeah, I'm like,
I think that's that's kind of the point of it, is that like you're starting to like not be able to tell like where Norman ends and where Green Goblin begins.
yes, I pick something else. Like that's all I ask.
Like you licked your fingers after you dipped into the banana pudding.
Yeah,
Like,
like what? Yeah. Anyway, but no, it's a good point, and you get the famous. I was walking, clipped by a bike messenger, fell down, and then he's like, "That's a weird cut. How'd you say that again? How'd you get that again?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Bike messenger ran into me, cut me," and I've got to go. Like, dude. I remember. I've watched this movie several times. It wasn't until this time that I understood. I was like, oh, he had two different stories. I was like, there's no fucking way you're hearing that being like, wait, say that again?
Mm-hmm.
Like, isn't it very realistic just to say I got hit by a bike messenger? Anyway, that's my grief with it. I'm sorry. I guess you guys are.
I don't know. I like how
no,
exaggerated
the whole
it is.
Yeah.
scene is like really
Very
out
tension-
of place. But
Oh, you think it's.
no, it's just it's so odd. Like the tension that's there.
Yep.
And then it turns into, I'm out of here. And then, Dad. And then he immediately goes into, like, she's a 2-bit
Yeah,
whore.
right
And
when
you
like
get-
she can hear them, like everyone can hear what he's yelling about.
Yeah,
to
he's
Harry.
like, trust me, dump her. You're better without
He's
her.
like,
Whatever
not even
you
trying to
want
be
with
subtle.
her and dust her. I wanted to hear it. I thought he said some other shit. That's why I was like, I
Yeah.
really want to hear what he says here. So if I remember right, it's pretty much like, do what you want. You know? I thought he said something, but he doesn't. He goes, do what you want. Trust me. Use her for whatever you want and then dust her.
yeah.
Like, it's, and then the whole, like, he's hiding up there. And
For whatever
how
reason.
inappropriate it is that Norman Osborn goes into his room.
Just like
all of them.
barges in.
All of them. All of them.
Yeah,
I had the
everybody-
same thing. I'm like, why are all four people running into Harry or Peter? Peter, where are you at?
Yeah.
Like they're all in there.
They're just
Aunt
really
May,
excited for him
Mary
to be there for Thanksgiving.
And then they're leaving, and here's a drop of blood, which I can buy because he has these
1000%.
right?
Yeah, 1000%.
And then like that whole, just everything about it is so.
It, dude. I agree.
But that's the only time that like the movie really pauses and lets you like catch up and collect
True.
yourself and a moment to breathe.
yeah, that's like the first time in like what, an hour 20 or something.
no, probably an hour 40 because after that,
Yeah,
they get
true.
like He's,
is
he's
on.
Peter Parker's Spider-Man. And catches Mary Jane, and it's like, yeah. So from that point, I don't like it that he's like, drop of blood. Like, what's going on here? Like, why the fuck? What intuition came up that could be the guy?
Yeah.
Why not do something where they're going up the elevator? Or,
Oh, and by the way,
Peter's like looking on the floor, and then he's walking down the hallway, kind of
Yeah.
like Breakfast Club style.
I mean, there's some tension with it, but I just wanted to say too that Harry did tell everyone that Peter was changing, possibly if he was in his room, and then they all four burst in there.
It's so inappropriate.
Thank you.
Like, just in terms of manners.
They wanted to see his Peter. That's what I'm saying.
Peter?
But they gave him the privacy in the beginning where she's like, what's going on in there? I'm hearing banging. Oh, nothing.
Nothing.
Change? Yeah.
Big change.
Big change.
Big change. Winks at the camera, points at his legs.
His like teeth glisten.
Yeah, the moment, also to backtrack, the moment that we know he's no longer a nerd is when he puts on the glasses and then he takes them off and then he puts them back on and he's like, don't need these anymore. Like, oh, hey, cool guy now.
Yeah, well, watch out.
Also, Mary Jane knows he's Spider-Man.
No.
Their windows face each other.
Oh, my.
He's like creeping, like, and there is a very serious amount of time in this movie where he's just stalking her. Like, yeah, bumped into you. Took 2 buses and a cab down here.
Yeah, a lot of casual just kind of followed you around.
Yeah.
Romanticizing of a little bit of stalker behavior. That's okay. It's a superhero movie. It's
Again,
fine.
It's
his
romantic.
sexual deviancy.
Yeah.
You know, he's a
Masculinity.
I will touch on what you
Weirdo.
said earlier about like her probably knowing that he's Spider-Man. Like, you kind of do get that sense of like she knows. And like there's like all these like very like not so obvious hints being dropped of like, oh, I need to kiss you, like in the second movie, or like, oh, I never noticed you without your glasses, or like when he says like, oh, I'm in the neighborhood or whatever, and then like he has the suit and he says the exact same shit to her. It's like, how could you not know that it's Peter Parker? Maybe it's like one of those things where like she's telling herself that it's not him, so that like there's a safety barrier there or something.
Yeah, so she doesn't fall in love with the nerd. Like, imagine being a waitress in New York and having to say you're going out with him.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I can't believe this big dork is Spider-Man. No way.
Fuck.
no, not the nerd.
You're not Flash.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think for the purposes of the movie, I think they have to have some sort of like small into it. Well, actually, there is a quote of Kirsten Dunst. They asked her if she thinks that Mary Jane knew it, and she said no. Mary Jane isn't smart enough to know that it's Spider-Man. Yeah, like
Yeah.
which kind of like
fair.
Like
True.
that's you.
She's kind of a buffoon in all three. There's certain things that go with all 3 movies. Scientists bad at their job.
Insanity.
All the villains are, bad guys with good hearts. Good hearts. They're in it for the right thing. They're in it for the right thing. They mean well. And the last thing is Mary Jane gets captured at the end of all 3 movies and is being held by a villain against her will, and it's like the damsel in distress tied up on the train. Help me, Spider-Man, help me! And it's like, couldn't have done anything else. Like one of the put her on a computer to hack something.
Yeah,
to help him out. Like, you got it, Pete. Anything.
Oh, you're literally the love interest, and that's why he's doing it. It's free. Well, part
Kirsten,
of doing it.
you're worthless.
I just thought of something that really could have like maybe capped off the 3rd movie, tying her into it, but we'll get into it when we get into Spider-Man 3. I'll try not to forget it. In fact, I'll write it down.
Yeah,
now.
write it down. Because I was thinking, like,
PSA for everybody out there, take notes.
one of the coolest scenes that they just not botched necessarily, but could have made it like very this is how strong Spider-Man is, and like showed the tension and the power. The fucking holding the cable car with the kids and getting Mary Jane. Like, imagine how much stress and tension on your body they could have put into that scene to show like how much energy is going into saving these people.
Mackie, I'm sorry, it's not like he has something that he has on him that could stretch to grab both things and hold on. Oh, like his web?
Yeah. Well,
he could have caught her with the web, and then also done it with the thing, and then been sitting there holding, the web's getting longer and longer.
Okay. Well, they
stretchy.
Yeah.
And Green Goblin's coming. Instead,
Yeah.
Just the hulkiness of that ending. He's like, save the children.
Oh,
or
they
save the girl, and then hike, and he immediately sprints to the chick.
I think he says something like "save the girl or suffer the little children" or something like that.
Dude, he literally goes like, "This is the problem that the bad guys always fuck up. They never give you the choice. I'm giving you the." You got it, pal. I did it. Damn it, doing it again.
Mm-hmm. And then it's after that they have like the little fight in the like abandoned like mansion or something.
Dude, this movie goes from breakneck to just kind of falls flat on its face.
He captures him at one point, and then he's got him up there on top of the roof, and he's like, "Look at him, Spider-Man. They don't even like us. Join me." And like does that kind of spiel.
I think that's after the house fire.
Yeah, like
right?
That is. They do he does the Joker scene, and then the city actually shows, "You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us."
Yeah, get your green ass out of
here.
here.
They throw like banana peels at him and shit. It's pretty epic.
Hey,
throw like a brick.
No offense to New York, too, but who's just carrying trash with them?
They were the homeless people. Spider-Man represents the homeless.
Save the day.
Dirty Mike and the boys. Got the soup kitchen, yeah. How's my hot clam chowder?
Throws a can of Chef Boyardee at Green Goblin. Oh my god.
Like, what can you really say about that last scene? It's like, it's the...
dude.
And you compare it to, like, The Dark Knight, you know, where he has the other choice.
Oh, that is another great, like, bad... We can't give it anything away, but yes.
You know what I mean? Like, where you have the choice
we know
to do something.
Yeah, and it's just bad writing.
But there's far more tension in that one than this.
Well,
has consequences.
Yeah,
this one with
they fumbled the end of that, but
the end of the tension with this one is like they do a really good job just building up to somewhat to that moment. I mean, you still feel like with Blandface that he's got a chance of like fucking it up, you know, and then
Blandface Tobey Maguire.
Okay. Sorry.
Vanilla Boy.
Yeah.
I
guess I'm more just upset that he's part of that posse.
We should just call him Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
There we go.
Dobie.
That's all right. Anyway,
that's a Harry Potter franchise. We're all only franchise references in this pod.
Yes. From here on out in this very episode.
But then they go through, they make it a 3-minute scene to save everyone, and the tugboat guy comes. We see you, Spider-Man. Just hold on. Like, how the fuck?
We're coming, Spider-Man.
Yeah. And then he's absolutely getting his ass beat by the Green Goblin.
Yeah, in like the abandoned mansion.
I like how there's no music for that.
I do like that. I like that quite a bit.
I like the physicality and brutality of them going at it.
Yeah, the set really bugged me.
Really?
It is,
I like the set.
You are in New York City.
It's gloomy. It's, I don't know, very moody and dark.
No, I don't mind that. It's like we're gonna have just a little brick wall right here up here, so we can have you guys knock it down.
Oh.
Like there's like pieces in there that I'm like, all right, man. Like just get an abandoned warehouse in there and just have them just being flung through windows and shit. But that's like when you talk about
the second movie, by the way.
Yeah, kind of.
Like the setting, like there's a random abandoned building just off the shoreline.
Yeah,
like in the second movie.
Yeah, the climax is happening,
but they still don't even have a fight. I mean, that fight's even worse than this one, but more touching. But like I don't know. He's just getting his ass beat, and then it's like I'm gonna kill Mary Jane. And he's like,
yeah, he's like, what does he say? He says something like. If it wasn't for you, she would have been dead real quick. But now that you had to intervene, she's going to die slow.
Yeah, which implies rape, by the way, too.
I was just thinking torture, but sure.
No, like the way he says it is like it fits in with the masculinity and the sexuality of this film. It was like I'm gonna make her suffer. Yeah.
Either way, it's gonna be terrible.
Yes.
And. Yeah, this gives him the strength, the angry energy to punch the shit out of Green Goblin until he says, "No, stop, please, Peter, it's me." And
Which
then
is
he takes the helmet off. He's like, "Buh? Norman?" Like, doesn't realize that it's him, I guess, until that point. Wasn't suspicious at the Thanksgiving dinner.
Like,
same exact voice, I guess, but, whatever. It's not
how
like...
many people saw the air glider? Like, he was showing that off to generals, and it has to be on so many reports, and then he's using
Harry's
it.
not telling him about it. Like, dude, what's your dad up to now? It's like, fucking, he's got ski jets. Like, fly.
How quickly that, like, after the parade, people be like, there's some crazy lunatic that just incinerated the
board of
staff,
directors of the Osborne.
Yeah.
What a monster. Who would do that?
They turn into skeletons. How corny is that?
Of all people.
And
I love
Jane.
the skeletons, though. I
But
don't
Mary
know.
Jane and Franco are right there, too. Like,
Yeah.
But like, all of that, that nobody is any wiser to know that came from Oscorp, and within probably 20 minutes of investigation, like, okay, where's the hang glider now?
Yeah, right. That's a good point. Yeah.
It'd be like Jerry Lundegaard in Fargo, like, yeah, I got the reports. I'll show you the hang glider. I'll go out there right now and grab it for you. And he takes off.
Need to. Yeah. He just see him running. Oh, dude. Yeah, that's a great point. That's a really great, like, where's the investigation and all this? I kind of had that thought after he killed his lead scientist. I was like, how is that no one examining him for murder? Like, hey, his time card wasn't punched out. He was here last.
Yeah.
You think he just forgot to clock out? Like, yeah. He
That's
does that
weird. Yeah.
Guess it must be 1 out of 1,000 times he forgot.
So yeah, then you get the the reveal that it's Norman. They have a little bit of dialogue. He's like, "I'm not well. I need help, Peter. You need to help me. You need to be the one to help me, Peter." Like, he's dipping in and out of, like, Norman Osborn, Green Goblin. Like, it's getting so mixed up. He's, like, switching in and out of, like, each voice with, like, every sentence.
And he's like,
it's a sociopath.
He's like discreetly putting the glider up, and it's like, Peter, beep boop beep. I'm your father. I should be your father. Beep 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 beep.
Yeah.
Like, he's making noises and punching the pad on his forearm. It's
I
like,
had a father.
yeah, I have a father, and his name's Ben Parker.
Which, what
Not
happened
true.
to
Yeah,
Uncle?
what happened to your dad, dude? Like,
Yeah.
that's disrespectful.
Yeah.
A little bit.
And who is Uncle Ben? What's his relationship to you?
Well, he's his
and why
uncle.
is he so much older than probably your dad?
Yeah.
So yeah, then Peter tells him that, and then Willem Dafoe goes, "Sayonara, Peter," or something like that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then he, like,
He
says
God
the
bless
line.
you, Spider-Man.
Yeah, he goes, Godspeed.
Oh yeah, he
Spider-Man."
says, "Godspeed, Spider-Man."
Yeah. Spider sense.
Yeah, and then the
kicks in.
glider like heads towards Peter. He does a cool backflip, and then like turbos to Willem Dafoe, and it just cuts to him, and he goes, "Oh," and then boom, stabbed in the abdomen.
Yeah, that was another miss.
Which I say hit. I love that they put that
Yeah,
in. I love
graphically
all the
it
corny-
nails him.
I will say this right now. All the corny shit that you guys kind of like to rag on, I personally enjoy.
I
for the
enjoy
most
it
part.
too. I should. There's two different modes for me right now. Okay,
Yes.
there's the actual cinema,
Yes.
and the actual
Yes.
film critiquing of the film,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's how much I love it.
Yes.
And I would say I like.
12-year-old Mac watching this thing.
I'm saying right now, like that. Even you saying like that made me laugh.
Yeah.
Like, it brings a smile to my face. So there is something to say about the was it Wabi Sabi?
Yes.
The,
Yeah.
the perfection of imperfection, and I think
Yes.
as a whole, the trilogy really has.
Wow.
Yes.
I'd say the same thing with
Some-
like the prequels for Star Wars.
Some more than others. Like some films more than others.
Yeah.
I will say that.
Wrong.
But, yeah. Then, and then, Norman looks at Peter one last time with his dying breath and says, "Don't tell Harry." And then he falls over and dies.
He kind of, I'm going to say realistic death scene. Like, his eyes stay open. He just kind of like crouches just a little bit. It's not like a thump.
Yeah.
He just like looks up and then he's like, and that's it. He just slumps and it's over.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
It's
then
just really comforting for a 10-year-old to be watching.
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like, this movie scared me as a kid. Like, I was very kind of just terrified of all the different things happening, just like the violence and the Green Goblin and like him screaming and shit and like all the skeletons.
Yeah,
This is kind of a scary movie for me as a kid.
Yeah, kind of. Okay.
Listen,
It's hard for us to jump on board with that, but that's just because of our parenting.
that's just because I'm a pussy.
Well, no, I mean, I'm sure, dude.
Oh, you kids want to be scared, huh?
Yeah.
Well, here you go. This is
I was gonna say you
The
guys were
Exorcist,
watching like
Halloween,
You guys were watching
Salem's
the Thing
Lot.
at like 7 years old.
Yeah.
like so.
Yeah, I had to go through and see when the video game came out because I remember we were pumped because we saw the movie, and I think it came out in '99 or something like that. The video game for the 64.
yeah.
Yeah, we watched The Exorcist when we were 9 or 10.
We're young.
Yeah.
I would have pissed my ass if they showed
you didn't
me
understand
Exorcist
what
at
was
9.
going on.
See, that's kind of the nice thing about watching some of it is like it's so out of context. You're like, how is this scary? But then if you were to watch it and you had a little bit of religion and understand, all the aspects going on with it and like what it was actually entailing is that this person's possessed. Like, dude, possession to us just meant Muppets. Like we're watching this, it's like I don't know why she's so bad.
But it's like like Dad would have on like the OG Bad News Bears, and you see the kid get bullied, ketchup on the head, thrown in a dumpster.
I will say Mars Attacks scared the shit out of me. Remember Mars Attacks? We watched that when that thing came out in the hotel room, and that scared the fuck out of me. That's why you're saying like the skeleton things. Like, yeah, that is scary.
There's some spooky, scary skeleton shit going on. That's what I'm saying.
Like Raimi's he does some stuff. That's what I'm saying. Like some of the tonal issues with this thing is like I got my horror stuff that I want to sprinkle in here, and he can make it frightening in tasteful ways.
I say flavor diversity. Give me some more of that.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. Why have one taste?
Why limit it
all
to
of them?
Why limit it to vanilla? You got Neapolitan right there.
Damn it,
This
Kyle.
movie really is. They're like, you want love interest? We got that. You want action? We got that.
You want horror? We got that.
You want a live musical performance with people dancing? Guess what? You will get it in every movie, and you will like it. Do you know who Macy Gray is? Yeah, she's the biggest star in the 2002 film, and nobody will know her in 20 years.
True.
Yeah.
Very good point.
That is true. So he brings Norman's dead body to the Norman mansion, the Osborn mansion, I should say. And Harry's like, Spider-Man, what are you doing? And then he like slinks away before he can see who it is. And of course, his dad is just dead.
He finds a gun in the nearest drawer. How dangerous is that household?
Is there
What have you done?
Is there a gun in like every drawer then? Yeah. I was thinking that.
Jasmine walked in and literally like sees him. She's like, looks at me. I was like, isn't that bizarre?
You know what's crazy? If you go back and watch that scene, the butler is standing in the corner and he's trying to reach him.
No,
but
the
butler was there that night and he's in the corner.
Yeah, I saw what I cleaned his bandages, self-inflicted from the glider that no one could find.
He was stabbed with his gilder.
The missing glider. A little bit. Yeah. I hid it from the cops when they came by to ask.
The butler.
I put a blanket over it.
Oh,
sir.
dude, and this is just jumping ahead, but in the third one, the guys, if I had the subtitles on. All right, the name's spelled Bernard. How do you say it?
Bernard.
Yeah. How does
James Franco says it Bernard.
Bernard? I'm like, is that like an artistic choice, or did he just?
They probably landed the take, and they were like, "We have 10 minutes left on daylight, or whatever." Like
Bernard, how do you fuck up Bernard?
Because he's probably on like take 7. They're like, "Dude, the key grip is about to go off the clock. Otherwise, we got to pay him time and a half.
Yeah.
Get it out."
Bernard. Oh, dude.
So then it gets into the end.
Yeah,
And it goes right to the funeral scene.
It's the funeral scene, and then I think that's the last one of the movie, right?
Yes,
yeah, and I wanted to say this. That is the most hype ending that you could have for a beginning of a trilogy, because they set up a feud.
Yep.
I vow to kill Spider-Man.
Yep.
Whoa, this is now intense. The two best friends are about to be going at it.
Yep.
And then he kisses Mary Jane. He's also,
No, they don't kiss.
Yeah, they do.
They
And she walks
do kiss.
away, and she.
But she initiates it.
Cheek kiss or like full on tongue
Like full
kiss?
on, like lip kiss, but no tongue.
Yeah.
Tastefully done.
Like it's a very
tastefully done kiss.
well, not tastefully, no tongue.
You're crashing funerals. Chicks are horny at funerals.
It's a natural aphrodisiac.
And then and then Aunt May it's like he still has to tell Aunt May what happened to Uncle Ben.
Yeah, that's
there's
not
like
resolved yet.
Yeah, there's quite a few loose ends, and you just knew that.
And he's accepted the mantle.
Yeah.
At that one, which is huge. Because like at the same token, he's still becoming Spider-Man, and you're not. Is he going to take on this responsibility? And he has said, "I am Spider-Man," and it's like, holy shit! Like we're in for a ride.
I think that's a good place to cap off our discussion of Spider-Man 1.
Yes.
Don't you think?
Agreed.
You want to take a tea?
We'll do it after. We'll do it after the ratings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's
And
get into
one last little thing that nobody's brought up, but we'll do it after the ratings.
Okay. Cool. Let's get into it. I guess I'll go first.
Yeah.
Since I introduced it, I quoted it. This movie is, to me, a lot of fun, a lot of really great stuff happening. Also, a lot of questionable things. Some of it dated of the time. Just some creative choices that made me scratch my head. But at the end of the day, I really do love how stylistic it is. I love how fun it is. Willem Dafoe's acting his ass off in this movie, and it just adds so much to the charm of it. I love Sam Raimi's editing style and his cinematography. All the technical choices going into this make this really dynamic and fun.
Okay.
And for that, this movie gets a 7 out of 10 for me.
7 out of 10.
Yes.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah. So saw this when I was 12. Loved it then. Love it now. Going back on it, it's very hard to watch this thing with where we are at with technology and CGI and what's going on with the Marvel Universe overall. However, still makes you think. Creative enough. I don't want to say creative enough. It is creatively done, and you can't argue with that. And it's fast paced, and you gotta applaud it for that. At no point are you really in a snooze fest with this thing. The acting in this and some of the dialogue takes me out of it. But this is where I'm at now. I also have it as a 7 out of 10.
Cool. All right, Sam, cap us off.
Mackie saw it earlier, but I pulled up my phone on IMDb, and I want to say this. At certain points, this movie's been a 3 out of 10. At other times, it's been a 10 out of 10 in my life.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Roller coaster.
Yeah, because every time you watch it, it's like, it just hits you differently. And it came down to okay, like I said, the actual cinema of a story and cohesive and stuff, not very good. A lot of cheese, a lot of this stuff. But my enjoyability, which always will outweigh, I switched from a 7 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10. Because that's how much it makes me smile.
Solid.
Yeah.
The deciding factor is I had it at a 7 out of 10, and I was like, is there any reason to make this an 8 out of 10? And then I was like, and they say that a hero can save us. I'm not going to stand here and wait. It is one of the best original songs to any movie ever.
I am glad you brought that up. I'm so happy you brought that up.
We were in a car. My dad's a football coach. We were with a bunch of other football coaches on a 3-hour drive to go to some camp or something.
Yeah, on the east side.
In the CDs.
Yep.
And they said, Sam, let me see your CD case. Let's see if there's something to listen to. And they go, Spider-Man soundtrack. And they put it in, and every coat, adults were singing that song. And I was like, yes,
I'm finally cool.
Yes. And I mean, does that not just get you right? Hearing that?
Sam got it for his 11-year birthday party.
I watched that music video yesterday. Not for the first time. I've seen it before because I know its association with this movie, but God bless America.
Yeah.
Just full-on salute.
Yeah. Tastefully said.
Yeah.
Would have paired up perfect as an end credit song when he flies in front of the American flag and he lands hero pose style.
Yeah, and then they just say, go. Well, yeah.
Yes.
So anyways.
Epic song.
Someone
epic
told
movie.
me love would always save us.
Dude, you couldn't get a hotter band at the time either.
No, you could not.
You really couldn't get a hotter band.
People give Nickelback a lot of crap, and I'm like, yeah, there's one thing that you can't take. It is so perfect. It's a perfect band for it. A bad band with a great song. That's Spider-Man.
Yeah,
it's a bad everything, great outcome.
Yeah, staple it.
Absolutely. This has been part 1 of episode 63. Thank you guys so much for listening. Part 2 will be out on Wednesday, the 24th, and Part 3 will be out on Saturday, the 27th of January. We appreciate you guys listening. You can find us on www.neoncrewpodcast.com. We are also on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, and be sure to rate us 5 stars on both Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you haven't already. We have merch available on our Etsy page, which the link will be included in the description. And be sure to check us out on our social media on Facebook and YouTube community page as well. And what do we say at the end of these episodes? WWTHD.